Ray Thompson sat in the grand living room of his opulent mansion, surrounded by the trappings of a life well lived, but ultimately unfulfilled. The sun streamed through the large, arched windows, casting golden rays that danced across the polished marble floor and illuminated the family portraits that adorned the walls. Each photograph captured moments of joy, laughter, and love, remnants of a life he once shared with his late wife, Margaret. Her absence lingered in the air like a bittersweet perfume, a reminder of what had been and what could never be again. At 75, Ray had amassed a fortune that many could only dream of, yet the wealth felt cold and hollow without someone to share it with. He often found himself drifting through the expansive rooms of his home, the echoes of his footsteps a constant reminder of his loneliness. On this particular afternoon, he settled into his favorite leather armchair, a glass of bourbon cradled in his hand, and stared into the fireplace where the embers glowed softly, a warm contrast to the chill that gripped his heart. Another day, another reminder, he murmured to himself, shaking his head as memories flooded back. Margaret's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of their dreams. The world outside felt distant, and his life, once vibrant, had become a series of repetitive days. Deciding he needed air, Ray set down his glass and made his way to the door, slipping on his well-worn coat. As he stepped outside into the crisp afternoon, the world welcomed him with its symphony of sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant laughter of children, and the chirping of birds. His mansion stood in stark contrast to the neighborhood, surrounded by modest homes and vibrant communities that thrived despite their limitations. He wandered down the street, his mind wandering as he observed the life around him. It was during this aimless stroll that he caught sight of a small figure rummaging through a trash bin. Curiosity piqued, he approached cautiously, his heart heavy with an inexplicable sadness. As he drew closer, he realized the figure was a woman, her clothes tattered and her hair unkempt. Beside her, a little girl with big, bright eyes watched, clutching a battered teddy bear. "Excuse me," Ray said softly, his voice tinged with concern. The woman looked up, startled, her expression a mixture of surprise and wariness. "Can I help you?" Sarah replied, attempting to shield her daughter with her body. Ray's heart melted at the sight of the child. I couldn't help but notice you both. Are you hungry?" Sarah hesitated, scanning his face for any sign of deceit. "We're fine," she said, her voice hoarse but firm. "Please," Ray insisted. "I have more than enough food at home. I wouldn't feel right if I didn't offer." After a moment's pause, Sarah's defenses began to lower, and she nodded slowly. "If you have something to spare," Ray led them to his home, where the scent of freshly baked bread enveloped them as he opened the door. The warmth of his mansion contrasted sharply with the chill outside, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope. "Make yourselves comfortable," he said, gesturing toward the dining table, where a lavish spread awaited. He watched as the little girl, Lily, immediately climbed into a chair, her eyes wide with wonder. "Wow, look at all this food," she exclaimed, her voice a melody of innocence that warmed Ray's heart. "Eat as much as you want," Ray encouraged, his gaze shifting to Sarah, who remained standing, her posture stiff and uncertain. Eventually, she joined them at the table, her eyes darting between the food and her daughter. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As they ate, the atmosphere shifted from tense to relaxed. Ray engaged them in conversation, asking about their lives. Slowly, Sarah began to share her story. "I lost my job about 6 months ago," she started, her voice trembling. "I was working as a waitress, but when the restaurant closed down, I couldn't find anything else. I tried to make ends meet, but it all just spiraled out of control." Lily, oblivious to the weight of her mother's words, munched on a slice of bread. "I like your house," she chirped, her eyes sparkling with childlike wonder. Ray smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "Thank you, Lily. It's a little too big for just me, though," he replied, his gaze softening as he looked at Sarah. "You're welcome to stay here, you know. I have a garage that's not being used. It might be a better temporary solution than living on the streets." Sarah paused, her heart racing at the unexpected offer. "You would do that for us?" "Of course," Ray nodded, a sincere smile gracing his face. Just think of it as a place to regroup, to find your footing. The idea hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Sarah exchanged glances with Lily, whose innocent smile urged her to consider the offer. I don't want to impose, Sarah said, her voice trembling. It's not an imposition at all, Ray replied, his tone gentle. I have more than enough space, and it's better than letting it go to waste. After a moment of deliberation, Sarah sighed, her shoulders relaxing. Okay, thank you. Ray felt a surge of relief and joy at her acceptance. Let's get you settled then. They finished their meal, and soon after, Ray led them to the garage, a large, dusty space filled with boxes and old furniture. It was a far cry from the luxurious living spaces of the mansion, but it held potential. As they entered, Sarah's eyes widened at the size of the space. It's big, she said quietly, looking around. Just needs a little tidying up, Ray said, gesturing toward the clutter. You can make it your own. Lily bounded inside, her laughter ringing through the air as she explored. Can I decorate it? She asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Absolutely, Ray replied, delighted by her enthusiasm. You can turn it into whatever you want. Sarah watched as her daughter began to imagine a new world within the garage, her heart swelling with a mixture of hope and fear. She felt an unexpected bond forming with Ray, a man who, despite his wealth, reached out to them in their darkest hour. Days turned into weeks, and as they settled into their newfound life, Sarah began to realize that perhaps this was a second chance, an opportunity to rebuild not just her life, but also her relationship with Lily. Ray became a familiar presence, visiting them regularly, sharing meals, and exchanging stories that bridged the gap between their worlds. With each passing day, the garage transformed from a mere shelter into a sanctuary filled with laughter, hope, and unexpected friendships. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm, golden hue across the neighborhood, Sarah felt a sense of renewed hope. It had been a few weeks since she and Lily had moved into Ray's garage, and each day seemed to bring a small victory. The once gloomy space had transformed into a cozy sanctuary adorned with Lily's colorful drawings taped to the walls. Each piece of art was a testament to her imagination, reflecting the vibrant spirit of a girl who had faced hardship, yet remained cheerful and resilient. Look, Mommy, I made a picture of us at the park, Lily exclaimed one morning, holding up a crayon drawing of herself, Sarah, and a cartoonish sun that seemed to smile down on them. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Sarah replied, her heart swelling with pride. You're such a talented artist. We'll have to hang this one right here. She carefully pinned the drawing to the wall, feeling the warmth of Lily's joy brighten the atmosphere. As days passed, Sarah focused on regaining her confidence. She spent her mornings scouring the internet for job openings, meticulously crafting her resume, and submitting applications to local businesses. The sense of purpose was invigorating, and each rejection only fueled her determination to keep moving forward. One afternoon, while sitting at a small table in the garage, surrounded by scattered papers and a half-empty mug of coffee, Sarah heard a soft knock at the door. It was Ray, his tall frame silhouetted against the bright light of the outside world. Mind if I come in? He asked, his voice warm and inviting. Of course, Ray. Come on in, Sarah replied, brushing away the remnants of her frustration. She appreciated his presence. He had become a source of encouragement in her life. Ray stepped inside, holding a plate laden with freshly baked cookies. I thought I'd bring a little treat to brighten your day, he said, a twinkle in his eye. Thank you. You always know how to make us smile, Sarah said, taking a cookie and breaking it in half. The sweet aroma filled the garage, blending with the scent of old wood and paint. While they munched on cookies, Sarah shared her progress with Ray. I've applied to a couple of places. There's a diner nearby that's looking for waitstaff. I think I could do that. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. That's fantastic. You'd be amazing at it, Ray encouraged, leaning forward, his hands resting on the table. You should prepare for the interview. Would you like some help? Really? You'd help me? Sarah was taken aback by his generosity, but the warmth in his gaze reassured her. Absolutely. We can do a mock interview right now, Ray replied enthusiastically. They spent the next hour role-playing different scenarios. Ray asked her questions about her experience, her strengths, and how she would handle difficult customers. Sarah found herself laughing at some of Ray's exaggerated portrayals of rude customers, which eased her nerves. "Remember, confidence is key," Ray said, his voice steady. "You have so much to offer. Just believe in yourself." After their session, Sarah felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She was grateful for Ray's support, which had ignited a flicker of hope within her. Later that evening, while Lily was busy coloring at the table, Sarah couldn't help but smile at the little girl's concentration. "What are you drawing now?" she asked, leaning over to peer at the paper. "It's a castle, with a princess and a dragon," Lily exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "And look, the dragon is friendly." "Of course it is. Every dragon needs a friend," Sarah said, beaming at her daughter's creativity. "You have such a wonderful imagination, Lily. I'm so proud of you." As they prepared for bed that night, Sarah tucked Lily into her makeshift bed, a cozy pile of blankets and pillows in the corner of the garage. "Sweet dreams, my love," Sarah whispered, kissing her forehead. "Good night, Mommy. I love you," Lily replied, her voice heavy with sleep. Once she was certain Lily was asleep, Sarah took a moment to sit in the dim light of the garage, reflecting on how far they had come. The garage felt like a home. It was filled with laughter, love, and the promise of a new beginning. Just then, her phone buzzed, breaking her reverie. A notification from an email popped up, and her heart raced as she opened it. The subject line read, "Job interview invitation." "Oh my God," Sarah gasped, her pulse quickening. She read the email again, her eyes skimming over the details like a lifeline. "I got an interview at the diner," she shouted, unable to contain her excitement. Ray, who had been sitting on a nearby stool flipping through a dusty book, looked up, startled. "What's happening?" "I got the interview. I can't believe it," Sarah exclaimed, her voice bubbling with joy. Ray's face broke into a wide grin. "That's incredible. When is it?" "Tomorrow. I have to prepare," she said, her mind racing with possibilities. "Let's do a celebratory dinner first," Ray proposed, standing up. "How about I whip up something special?" "Are you sure?" "You've already done so much for me," Sarah said, her gratitude evident. "Nonsense. It'll be my pleasure. You deserve a good meal before your big day," he replied, heading toward the small kitchenette in the garage. While Ray cooked, Sarah helped by setting the table with a few mismatched plates and utensils they had scavenged from the house. The aroma of sautéed vegetables and herbs filled the air, creating a warm ambience. "I can't remember the last time I had a proper dinner," Sarah said, her heart full as she placed the final plate on the table. "Then let's make this one memorable," Ray said, smiling as he carried over a steaming pot of pasta. They sat down together, and as they ate, the conversation flowed easily. "Tell me more about your life before everything changed," Ray encouraged, sensing that there was still so much Sarah had yet to share. With a deep breath, Sarah began to recount her life before losing everything. "I had a good job in a small apartment. I was happy, and I felt secure. But then it all fell apart. I lost my job due to budget cuts, and without that income, I couldn't keep up with rent. It was a series of unfortunate events that spiraled out of control." Ray listened intently, empathizing with her pain, but also appreciating her resilience. "You've shown so much strength, Sarah. I admire that," he said softly, reaching across the table to touch her hand. "Thank you, Ray. You've helped me more than you know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As the night wore on, they shared stories and laughter, the distance between them shrinking further. For the first time in years, Sarah felt a sense of belonging, and she was grateful to have someone like Ray in her life. After dinner, as they cleaned up together, Sarah couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope for the future. She was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, knowing she had a supportive friend by her side. "Tomorrow is a new day," Ray said, sensing her optimism. "And I believe you're going to shine." "I hope so," Sarah replied, a smile creeping onto her face. "With your help, I think I just might." With that promise hanging in the air, they finished cleaning up the last few dishes, feeling a renewed sense of camaraderie, as if they were already a family. Hope and determination intertwined, lighting the path ahead. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow through the windows of Ray Thompson's mansion, The old man felt a flutter of excitement mingled with apprehension. It was the day of Sarah's job interview, a moment that felt monumental not just for her but for him as well. He had spent the previous evening gathering his thoughts on how to best support her, recalling the countless interviews he had faced in his own youth, the mixture of nerves and hope swirling in his gut. In the garage, Sarah stood in front of a makeshift mirror, a reflection crafted from an old, polished piece of metal. With Ray's help, she had chosen a simple but elegant outfit, a navy blue blouse that highlighted her eyes and a pair of tailored trousers that made her look professional yet approachable. She practiced her smile in the mirror, trying to erase the shadows of doubt that lingered in her mind. "How do I look?" she asked, her voice a mixture of uncertainty and hope. Ray, leaning against the doorframe, crossed his arms and studied her with an appreciative gaze. "You look fantastic, Sarah. You're going to knock their socks off," he said, a genuine smile breaking through the lines of his weathered face. The sight of her confidence blooming brought him a sense of pride he hadn't felt in years. "Just remember, they're as nervous as you are. Just be yourself." Sarah nodded, the encouragement wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate everything you've done for us," she replied, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "I never thought I'd get this chance, or that I would have someone like you in my corner." "Just doing what I can," he said, shrugging off the compliment, though internally he felt a surge of purpose. As Sarah gathered her things, Ray picked up her small, floral-patterned bag and handed it to her. "Let me drive you," he offered. "It's a big day." Her eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure? I don't want to impose." "Not an imposition at all. It'll give me a chance to wish you luck in person," he insisted, his tone leaving no room for argument. With a grateful smile, Sarah accepted, and they made their way to Ray's car, parked neatly in his driveway. The engine hummed to life, and as they drove through the quiet streets, Ray couldn't help but steal glances at Sarah. She was fidgeting with the hem of her blouse, a sign of her nerves. "Just breathe," he said gently, trying to ease her tension. "You've got this. Just remember what we talked about. They want to know who you are, not just your resume." "Right," she replied, her voice shaky. "Just be myself." Easier said than done, though. As they approached the building where the interview was to take place, Ray felt a mix of pride and anxiety for her. He parked the car and turned to face her, his expression serious but caring. "Sarah, I want you to know that no matter what happens in there, you're already a success. You've come so far, and I'm proud of you." Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she blinked them back, swallowing hard. "Thank you, Ray. Your support means everything to me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now go in there and show them what you're made of," he encouraged, giving her a reassuring nod. Sarah took a deep breath, opened the car door, and stepped out, the sunlight kissing her cheeks as she made her way toward a new chapter in her life. As Ray watched her walk away, he felt an unexpected swell of pride. It was as if he were sending off a daughter on her first day of school. He sat in the car for a moment, contemplating the changes that had transpired in his life since Sarah and Lily had come into it. The immense loneliness that had once enveloped him was beginning to dissipate, replaced by a sense of purpose and connection. With Sarah gone, Ray decided to take advantage of the time. He turned his attention to the garage, which he had initially thought of as a temporary shelter, but was now beginning to feel like home for Sarah and Lily. He stepped inside, the familiar smell of the place, an odd mix of old wood and metal, greeted him. Ray had always been a meticulous man. His possessions were organized, categorized, and cared for. But in the last few weeks, the garage had become a sanctuary of sorts, cluttered with boxes of forgotten memories and remnants of his past. He rolled up his sleeves, determined to tidy up the space as a surprise for when Sarah returned. As he began to sort through the boxes, he unearthed various items: an old bicycle, a dusty set of golf clubs he hadn't touched in years, and a collection of tools that had once belonged to his father. Each object brought with it a flood of memories, whisking him back to days filled with laughter and love. He chuckled to himself as he recalled the time he and his wife had spent an entire weekend trying to fix up that bicycle for their daughter, only for her to declare she had outgrown it the moment they finished. Hours passed as Ray immersed himself in the task, the sound of his own thoughts filling the air. He arranged boxes in a more orderly fashion, creating a small corner adorned with Lily's drawings, which had brightened the once dull garage. He wanted this space to feel like home, a reflection of the warmth Sarah and Lily had brought into his life. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps approaching. He turned to see Sarah walking in, her face flushed with excitement and a hint of anxiety. "Ray," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with a mixture of relief and joy. "I'm back. I think it went well." "Hey there. I'm glad to see you," Ray said, wiping his hands on a rag and stepping toward her. "Tell me everything." As they talked, laughter filled the garage, echoing off the walls. Sarah's eyes sparkled as she recounted the interview, the nervousness of meeting her potential employer, and the moment she felt a connection with the panel. "I just hope I didn't ramble too much," she said, biting her lip. "I got a little carried away when they asked about my past experiences." Ray chuckled. "That's a good sign. It means you were passionate. They'll remember you for that." As they continued to chat, Ray gestured to the garage, now transformed into a more inviting space. "I thought I would clean up a bit while you were gone. I wanted it to feel more like home." Sarah looked around, her eyes widening in surprise. "Ray, this is amazing. I can't believe you did all this. It looks like a real place to live." "I figured if we're going to make this work, it should feel welcoming," he replied, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've done so much for us already. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to repay me," Ray said, shaking his head. "Just seeing you and Lily happy is enough for me." As they began sorting through the remaining boxes, they shared stories and laughter, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. Ray, who had once felt isolated in his grandeur, found himself reveling in the joy of companionship, while Sarah discovered a sense of belonging she thought she had lost forever. Every box they unpacked revealed not just forgotten items, but memories and hopes for the future. The garage, once merely a shelter, was becoming a space filled with laughter, warmth, and the promise of new beginnings. Together, they forged a path forward, a newfound family discovering the beauty of second chances in the most unexpected of places. As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of life inside the garage transformed into a comforting routine. Sarah had secured a job at a local diner, and with her first paycheck in hand, she felt her confidence begin to bloom. The clattering of plates and the hum of conversation had become a familiar backdrop to her day, one that filled her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. In the evenings, after a long shift, she would return to the garage, exhausted yet exhilarated, to share stories of her day with Lily and Ray. "Guess what, Ray?" Sarah exclaimed one evening, her eyes sparkling. She had just come in, her apron still tied around her waist, and Lily was busy coloring a picture of a rainbow on the makeshift table. "I served the mayor today. Can you believe it?" Ray looked up from where he was sitting, a book in his lap. He had been reading about the history of the town, but Sarah's enthusiasm pulled him out of his thoughts. "The mayor? That's incredible, Sarah. Did you get to speak with him?" "Just a quick hello, but it felt amazing," she replied, a smile stretching across her face. "I never thought I'd be serving anyone, let alone someone important." "That's how it starts," Ray said encouragingly, leaning forward. "Every little moment counts. You're building a new life, and it's inspiring to see." Lily, looking up from her coloring, chimed in, "Mommy's a superstar, Ray. Just like you." Ray chuckled, his heart swelling with warmth. He had come to see Sarah and Lily as a family of sorts, and her victories felt like his own. Absolutely, a superstar in the making. As they settled into their evening routine, Sarah began to dream big. With each paycheck, she envisioned a cozy apartment for her and Lily, a space they could truly call home. "I can almost see it, Ray," she said one night, her voice filled with hope. 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, maybe a garden where Lily can play. Ray nodded, the thought tucking itself away in his mind. "You will get there, Sarah. Just keep pushing forward. You're doing wonderfully." With the support of Ray and her newfound job, Sarah felt empowered. She began to take small steps toward her dreams, researching local apartments and budgeting her earnings. Each day brought her closer to a sense of stability she thought was lost forever. Meanwhile, Ray had become an integral part of their lives. Every weekend, he attended Lily's school events, clapping the loudest at her performances and cheering her on during sports days. He was the proud grandfather figure she never had, and for Lily, his presence was a source of joy and security. One Saturday, they went to Lily's school fair. The air was filled with laughter and the smell of popcorn. As they walked through the fairgrounds, Ray held Lily's hand while Sarah captured moments on her phone, snapping pictures of her daughter's beaming smile. "Look at that, Ray." Lily pointed excitedly at a booth where children were trying their hand at tossing rings onto bottles. "Can I try?" "Of course, sweetheart," Ray replied, watching as she scampered off to the booth. Though she didn't win a prize, her spirit remained unbroken. Ray knelt beside her after the game and said, "You gave it your best shot, and that's what counts." "Thanks, Ray. I'll win next time," she declared, her determination shining through. As the fair went on, Sarah and Ray found a quiet moment away from the crowd. Sarah looked at Ray, her expression softening. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us. I never imagined I'd be in such a good place after everything." Ray shrugged, a modest smile brushing his lips. "You've done the hard work, Sarah. You're the one who's turned your life around. I'm just happy to help." As they shared a comfortable silence, Ray felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The loneliness that had once engulfed him was fading, replaced by a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. Days turned into evenings filled with laughter, shared meals, and a growing bond that felt almost familial. Sarah and Ray would often stay up late discussing dreams, fears, and the little triumphs of the day. They formed a unique partnership, supporting each other through their respective journeys. One afternoon, while sorting through some boxes in the garage, Ray stumbled upon an old photo album. Dusting it off, he opened it, flipping through the pages filled with memories of a time long past. The photographs depicted moments of joy and milestones that seemed to belong to someone else. "Sarah," he called, holding the album up for her to see. "Look what I found." Sarah approached, intrigued. "What is it?" "A photo album," Ray replied, flipping through the pages. "I thought it might be fun to look back at some memories." As the two delved into the past, Sarah's heart raced when she saw a familiar face among the photographs. There, captured in a joyful moment, was her younger self, radiant and full of life. The image stirred memories long buried, memories of a time when hope seemed endless. "Ray, this is me," she whispered, pointing at the photo. Ray studied the picture, then glanced at Sarah, his brow furrowing slightly. "You look so happy here. What was going on?" A silence hung in the air as Sarah's mind raced back to those days. "That was before everything changed," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I had a good job, a loving partner, and dreams of a bright future. But then life happened." Ray's heart ached for her. He could sense the weight of those words, the burden of her past pressing down on her. "What happened, Sarah?" he asked gently, wanting to understand the journey that led her to this moment. Taking a deep breath, Sarah hesitated. "I lost my job due to cutbacks, and it spiraled from there. My partner couldn't handle the pressure and left. I tried to hold it together for Lily, but it was just too much." Ray nodded, absorbing her story, and the realization dawned on him that behind Sarah's resilience lay a history of heartbreak. "You're incredibly strong, you know, to have come through all that and still fight for a better life for you and Lily." A flicker of gratitude crossed Sarah's face, but it was quickly replaced by a shadow of concern. "Sometimes I worry that my past will catch up to me, that Lily will find out about the struggles I've faced." Ray reached out, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Your past doesn't define you, Sarah. What matters is who you are now and the love you provide for Lily. You're building a future together." As they continued to flip through the album, Ray couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Sarah's story. The picture of her happy self lingered in his mind, raising questions that begged for answers. Who was she before life took its toll? What dreams had she set aside? With each page they turned, Ray felt compelled to learn more about the woman who had become such an important part of his life. He sensed that understanding her past would help him support her in the present and future. And so, the bond between them deepened, entwined with curiosity and understanding. As they settled back into their routine, the air was thick with unspoken possibilities, each day a new canvas to paint their shared story. Ray looked forward to the journey ahead, eager to discover the layers of Sarah's life, knowing that sometimes the past holds the key to unlocking one's true potential. Ray Thompson stood in the garage, the warm afternoon sun streaming through the small window, casting a golden light over the cluttered space. In his hands, he held an old photo album he had unearthed from beneath a stack of dusty boxes. The pages crinkled as he turned them, revealing glimpses of a life long past. Images of a younger Sarah, full of hope and dreams, smiling brightly against the backdrop of a life he could only imagine. He felt a wave of curiosity mixed with concern wash over him. He had come to know Sarah as a resilient woman, battling the harsh realities of life with her young daughter, Lily, by her side. But this photograph hinted at a different story, one that Ray felt compelled to uncover. "Sarah," Ray called out, his voice echoing softly in the garage. He could hear her soft footsteps approaching, the sound of Lily's laughter trailing behind her as they played a game of make-believe outside. Sarah entered, her expression shifting from a warm smile to an inquisitive frown as she noticed the photo album in his hands. "What do you have there?" she asked, her voice tinged with both curiosity and apprehension. Ray hesitated for a moment, gauging her reaction. "I found this while I was cleaning up. It looks like it could tell some stories." He opened the album to a particular photo, pointing to the vibrant image of a younger Sarah, her hair flowing in the wind, a sparkle in her eyes that belied the struggle she would face later. Her gaze fell on the photo, and for a moment, the world around them faded. Sarah's fingers brushed against the page, and a shadow seemed to cross her features. I haven't seen that in years," she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. "Who were you back then?" Ray asked gently, hoping to draw her out. Sarah took a deep breath, the weight of memories flooding back. "I was someone who believed in the future. I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to be an artist, to travel the world, to make a difference." Ray watched her, captivated. "What happened? You seem so different now." The vulnerability in her eyes was palpable. "Life happened," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. "I got married young, thinking it was the right thing to do. My husband was supportive at first, but then things changed. He lost his job, and I was pregnant with Lily. The pressure mounted, and before long, I found myself in a toxic relationship. I lost myself along the way." "I'm so sorry, Sarah," Ray said softly, feeling a deep empathy for the pain she had endured. "But you're not that person anymore. You're strong. You're here now, taking care of Lily, and you're rebuilding your life." She looked up at him, her expression a mixture of gratitude and sadness. "Sometimes I wonder if I can truly rebuild. The shame of my past is always looming over me. I'm afraid it will catch up with me." Ray felt a pang in his heart. He could sense the fragility of her confidence, the fear that still clung to her. "You're not alone in this, Sarah. You have me, and you have Lily. We're building something together, and you're doing an incredible job." Sarah smiled faintly, but the worry remained etched on her face. "What if someone from my past finds me? What if they tell Lily? I can't bear the thought of her knowing. I don't want her to see me as a failure." Ray leaned closer, his tone firm yet supportive. "You're not a failure. You're a survivor. And if someone were to come after you, we would face it together. You've shown such strength in the face of adversity, and I believe in you." Just then, the laughter of Lily echoed through the garage, a sweet reminder of the innocence that still existed in their lives. Sarah's gaze flickered towards the door, where her daughter was playing with a makeshift dollhouse made from old boxes. "I want to be the mother she deserves," Sarah said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But sometimes I feel like I'm just one step away from losing everything again." "There's a saying I once heard," Ray replied thoughtfully. "Every day is a new chance, a fresh start." You've already taken so many steps in the right direction. You have a job now, and you're showing Lily what it means to be resilient. She nodded, though uncertainty still clouded her expression. "Thank you, Ray. Your support means the world to me. I just wish I could shake off the past completely." Ray felt a surge of determination. "You will. One day at a time, Sarah. And when the past tries to rear its ugly head, we'll handle it together." As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the garage, the atmosphere shifted. They both sensed an impending storm, not of the weather kind, but of the turmoil that was about to resurface in Sarah's life. The following day, as they settled into their routines, Sarah's phone rang unexpectedly. The shrill sound cut through the peaceful atmosphere, and she glanced at the screen, her heart racing as she recognized the caller ID. "Is everything okay?" Ray asked, noticing her sudden change in demeanor. I need to take this," Sarah said, her voice shaky as she walked to the corner of the garage, trying to distance herself from Ray's watchful eyes. "Hello," she answered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sarah? It's me. We need to talk," the voice on the other end said, dripping with a familiar malice that sent chills down her spine. "What do you want?" she stammered, her heart pounding in her chest. "I know where you are, and I think it's time you faced your past. You can't hide forever, you know." Panic set in as the implications of the call sank in. "I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone." "Oh, but it's not just about you anymore, is it? I know all about your daughter, and I wouldn't want her to find out about the real you." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face as dread washed over her. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Try me. You know I can make things very complicated for you. It's time to pay the piper, Sarah." With that, the call ended, leaving her standing there, frozen in fear. She turned slowly, her eyes wide with terror as she faced Ray, who had been watching her with concern. "What happened?" he asked, stepping closer. I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaking. Ray took her hands in his, grounding her. "You can tell me anything, Sarah." As she opened her mouth to explain, the weight of her past pressed down on her, and she realized she was at a crossroads. The love and support she had found in this new life were now threatened by shadows of what had once been. Would she have the strength to confront it, or would the fear of her past consume her? In that moment, as uncertainty loomed over them, Ray's unwavering presence reminded her of the bond they had formed, one rooted in compassion, understanding, and a shared belief that second chances could lead to something beautiful. But as the shadows of her past crept closer, Sarah knew she had to make a choice, to face her fears or let them dictate her future. As Sarah sat on the edge of the makeshift bed in the garage, her heart raced with anxiety. The weight of her past loomed like a dark cloud overhead, and the threat from her old acquaintance felt like a noose tightening around her neck. She glanced at Lily, who was happily drawing on a piece of cardboard with crayons, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their sanctuary. "Ray," she called, her voice shaky. The elderly millionaire had become a crucial part of her and Lily's new life, and she knew he would understand. Ray, with his gentle demeanor and warm smile, had been a beacon of hope for them. He had not only given them shelter, but had also ignited a spark within her that she thought had long been extinguished. Ray appeared in the doorway, his brow furrowed with concern. "What is it, Sarah?" Taking a deep breath, she began to recount the unsettling phone call she had received earlier that day. "It was from an old acquaintance," she confessed, her voice trembling. They threatened to expose my past. They said they would ruin everything I've built here with you and Lily." Ray's expression hardened as he stepped closer. "What do they want from you?" "They want money, something I don't have. But it's not just about money, Ray. It's about the fear of losing this life, of Lily knowing the truth about me." Tears pooled in her eyes as she spoke, and she wiped them away angrily. "I can't let her see me like that." "You're stronger than you think, Sarah," Ray said, his voice steady and comforting. "We can face this together. You're not alone anymore." She looked up at him, a mix of gratitude and fear swirling in her chest. "But what can we do? They know things I hoped would stay buried." "Let's confront this person," Ray suggested, his eyes gleaming with determination. "We'll go together. You deserve to reclaim your life, and I won't let anyone take that away from you." The idea of facing her past was terrifying, but the resolve in Ray's voice ignited a flicker of courage within her. "Okay," she whispered, knowing that this was a pivotal moment. "Let's do it." Later that afternoon, Ray drove them to a small cafe on the outskirts of town where Sarah had arranged to meet her acquaintance, Jenna. The cafe was a quaint little place with shabby chic decor, but the atmosphere felt heavy with tension as they entered. Sarah's heart raced as she spotted Jenna sitting at a corner table, her posture relaxed, but her eyes were calculating. "Stay close to me," Ray said quietly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder as they approached. Sarah, Jenna greeted with a smirk, her tone dripping with disdain. I see you found a new life. How quaint. Let's cut to the chase, Jenna, Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. What do you want? Jenna leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. I want what's owed to me, Sarah. You think you can just forget everything and live happily ever after? That's not how life works. Ray interjected, his voice calm but firm. She's not here to pay you off, Jenna. She's trying to build a future for herself and her daughter. Oh, isn't that sweet? Jenna mocked. But you know the truth will always come out, don't you? I have all the dirt on you, and I wouldn't hesitate to share it if you don't comply. Sarah felt her resolve begin to crumble as Jenna's words hung in the air. But then she felt the warmth of Ray's hand on hers, steadying her. You've already caused enough damage, Jenna, Ray said, his voice rising just above a whisper. It's time for you to step back and realize that your threats won't work anymore. What are you going to do, old man? You think you can protect her? Your money doesn't mean anything here, Jenna sneered, but there was a tremor of uncertainty in her voice. Ray took a step forward, his presence commanding. You don't know my past either, Jenna. I made mistakes too, and I lost everything because of them. But I've learned that true strength lies in one's ability to uplift others, not tear them down. The tension in the cafe was palpable as Sarah watched the confrontation unfold. She felt a swell of gratitude for Ray's support. This was not just about her. It was about taking a stand for herself and for Lily. You think you can threaten me? Sarah finally spoke up, her voice gaining strength. You don't know the first thing about me now. I'm not that scared woman anymore. I'm fighting for my daughter, and I won't let you intimidate me. Jenna's expression flickered, surprise flashing in her eyes. You think you've changed? You're still the same person beneath it all. No, Sarah replied, shaking her head. I'm not. I'm a mother now, and that changes everything. Ray nodded in agreement. It's time you face the truth, Jenna. Attempting to drag someone down only reveals your own insecurities. Sarah has a new life now, and you can't take that away from her. The confrontation reached its peak, and Jenna's bravado began to falter. You think you've won? She spat, but her voice lacked conviction. This isn't over. Maybe, Ray said, his tone unwavering. But you don't scare her anymore. You can't control her life. With that, Ray and Sarah turned to leave, the weight of the confrontation lifting as they stepped outside. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the town, and Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. Thank you, she breathed, meeting Ray's gaze. I couldn't have done that without you. Ray smiled, his warmth radiating through her. You're stronger than you realize, Sarah, and you've got a bright future ahead of you. As they drove back to the garage, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. She had faced her fears and reclaimed her dignity. That night, as she tucked Lily into bed, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. In the days that followed, Sarah began to build upon her newfound confidence. With Ray's encouragement, she started to explore opportunities to give back to the community, inspired by her own journey. Meanwhile, Ray found himself reflecting on the encounter, feeling invigorated by the lessons he had learned from Sarah's resilience. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between Sarah, Lily, and Ray only grew stronger. They celebrated small victories, shared laughter, and created lasting memories. The garage had transformed from a mere shelter into a home filled with warmth and love. One day, while sorting through old boxes, Ray stumbled upon a dusty, leather-bound journal. He opened it to find pages filled with notes and sketches, evidence of Sarah's dreams and aspirations before life had gotten in the way. Sarah, he called, his heart racing with excitement. You need to see this. She rushed over, her curiosity piqued. What is it? This journal, Ray said, flipping through the pages. It's beautiful. It showcases your dreams, your creativity. You should share this with the world. As Sarah read through her own words, tears filled her eyes. I'd forgotten about these dreams, she admitted, her voice a whisper. I thought they were lost forever. They're not lost, Ray said, his tone encouraging. You can still achieve them. Let's find a way to showcase your art, your story. With Ray's unwavering support, Sarah began to work on an art exhibition that would highlight her journey and inspire others facing similar challenges. They spent countless evenings in the garage, brainstorming ideas, setting up displays, and planning every detail. As the day of the exhibition approached, excitement buzzed in the air. Sarah felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years, and she knew it was all thanks to the bond she had forged with Ray and Lily. On the night of the exhibition, the garage was transformed into a gallery, adorned with Sarah's artwork and stories. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers came to support her, and as she stood there, surrounded by love and encouragement, she realized just how far she had come. Ray stood beside her, his heart swelling with pride as he watched Sarah shine. "You did this," he whispered, his voice filled with admiration. "You brought your dreams to life." As Sarah looked around at the smiling faces, she felt a warmth in her heart that she had thought was lost forever. "This isn't just my journey," she said, turning to Ray. "It's ours. You helped me find my way." In that moment, surrounded by love and hope, Sarah realized that second chances were possible, and with the right support, dreams could be revived. And as she looked at her daughter, Lily, she knew that their futures were brighter than ever.